Shalom to everybody. It's good to be here. See you every Shabbat. Those of you that come, we're happy for you. Happy that you are gravitating to the thing that's essential to your relationship with the Most High. I ran into a young man yesterday. I want you all to pray for him. I had to go to Lowe's, and the young man was standing outside handing out leaflets in support of the ministry that was helping him to get his life back on track. So he engaged me. Said, "How you doing?" I said, "That all depends on what you're going to ask me." So I knew that money was going to be the ask. Unfortunately, I did not have any money on me. Zero. I said, "Well, I don't have any cash on me." I said, "But tell me something." And I want to impress upon you all that the Most High provides us with opportunities. And when He provides us with opportunities, we have to step up to the plate. I said, "So tell me, do you know who you are?" I said, "Yeah." When I ask that question, I get that look all the time. I said, "You don't know who you are, do you?" I says, "You are a Hebrew Israelite. Did your ancestors come to this country out of the continent of Africa?" I said, "What, you don't know?" And I began to talk to him, and he began to tell me, "Well, I'm an ex-gang member. I've been shot. I've been to prison. I'm just trying to get my life together." I said, "Well, you're on a track, but I need to get you on the right track." I said, "I'm going to tell you some things that you're never going to hear in a Christian church. You're never going to hear from anybody that you know. It's going to be foreign to you." I said, "But the sad thing about it is people carry it around under their arms every Sunday and don't know what it says." And I began to explain to him the things that I teach you all here. His face lit up. You could see him, his soul receiving what I was sharing with him. And as I'm talking to him in my mind, I'm thinking, do we really understand how blessed we are? Huh? Huh? Do you all understand how blessed you are? I said to him, if you would have been raised under what I'm telling you right now, you would have never been in a gang, you would have never got shot, you would have never gone to prison. If you would have known what I'm sharing with you right now. As of now, to get your life on track, you have to come out of the thing that got you off track. And it's not Christianity. That's not the track. I said, I realize the place where you are, that's their narrative. And because of where you've been, this is what you got to go through. But when you're finished with that, and you're a free man again, here's my card. Call me. I says, because I've got something to tell you that's going to help you not just be free today, but free for the rest of your life. Y'all know, we've heard the text over there across the street say, he whom the Son has set free is free indeed. Right? Allow me to put it in proper context. Allow me to put it in proper context. In the book of Shemot, chapter 20, I think it is, in verse 4, I always forget. I know it's in Exodus. The Most High said to Moshe, let me see, please let it be there. I always forget where it is. Where the Most High told Moshe to go tell Pharaoh to let my son go. Chapter 4. Thank you. Yes, you all help me out. I'm in Exodus chapter 20. Can't be 20. That's the commandments. Come on, Robert. Exodus chapter 4 and verse is 4 and 20, isn't it? Huh? 22. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, in Shemot, Exodus chapter 20, chapter 4, and verse 22, the Most High says, then you are to tell Pharaoh, Yahweh says, Israel is my firstborn son. So, if the son is supposed to set you free, and Israel is the Most High's firstborn son, then it is the responsibility of Hebrew Israel, who is the son of the Most High, to set people free. How do they do that? They have a mandate. The mandate of Hebrew Israel is to teach the nations Torah. It is the Kohanim's responsibility to uphold and to teach the people Torah. When we are endowed with Torah, we are free. Free. No longer slaves. Free. The knowledge of Torah sets you free. You're not bound. You're not under bondage anymore. You're not under policy. Can I be a member of your church? Yeah, well, here are the rules. This is how we operate. No. We're not a church. We're a congregation. We're part of a nation, a dynasty, as Sean likes to call us, an empire. And we have a king. We have a ruler. He has given us a governance that allows us to move freely in this earth and be free. Things you thought you couldn't do, you're free to do. The only thing you can't do is violate the principles of Torah. But if you don't know what those principles are, then you're subject to violate them. Well, Most High, in my awakening this morning, pressed upon my mind, and I know why I'm struggling with the writing of the second book, What About My People? Today I found out why I'm struggling with it. Anybody want to take a guess why I'm struggling with it? He told me, he said, my people do not have anything chronological in their hands as a quick reference. Listen to me. A quick reference to Torah for Hebrews in exile. I'm teaching them, I'm sharing them with you, but you don't have, unless you spend your time going back through Scripture and finding them, you do not have at your fingertips a quick reference to look at. Then he says to me, you know that my people don't even know what Torah is. So, have an assignment today. I got to write it. The good thing is, it shouldn't take me long because I have all the information. So we ought to be able to get this one out, Sean. Chop, chop. How important, I've tried to express to you every week I get up to teach. I've tried to impart to you the importance of knowing these. And I know, listen now, I know that you haven't remembered them. You know how I know you haven't remembered them? I know what they are, I know what they say, but I haven't remembered them. those that I do remember, guess what I do? I meditate upon them day and night. I know how to treat you. I know how to talk to you. The Most High says in his word that he loves something. He loves those that are righteous and also who offer justice. Justice and righteousness are part of the two aspects that the Most High most appreciates about his people. And the only place we can find it is in Torah. Only place. So when we live our lives righteously and justly, and we walk that way before the Most High smiles on us, and, oh, let me do this. Got to do it. Hope I can remember where it is. Tehillim, Psalms. Between chapter 34 and chapter 40. Let me get there. Chapter number 34, verse number 9. We shall start there. Taste and see that Yahweh is good. So now the idea appeals to one of the faculties that we have: eyes, ears, nose, mouth, to taste. How do you taste? How do you taste and see that Yahweh is good? How do you taste? Now, watch this now. Watch it. Let's follow the analogy of tasting. So we go to the winery and we do what? Wine tasting. Or we go to a cookout or someplace and you go like, well, I want to taste this before I put a lot of it on my plate. I want to taste it. So he says, taste and see. When we look into Torah, if we can grab a little taste of it and hear the Most High say to us, the Torah is good. So you taste it and you go, oh, this is good. You get another taste, you go, ooh, this makes me feel good. Watch this. Cannabis is the not new, it's the something that gets us feeling good. And if you're not used to dealing with it, and you take too much of it, you really start feeling good. So to a new person, say, why are you talking about cannabis? Because I'm trying to make a point. You can't bite off a whole bunch at a time. You have to take a little bit and taste and see how it's going to function in your body. Ain't that right, somebody? So the Most High says to us, I want you to taste and see for yourself that what? That Yahweh is good. How blessed are those who take refuge in him. Fear Yahweh, you set apart ones of his. For those who fear him, watch this now, lack nothing. Well, wait a minute. You say, well, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have this. So what is he talking about? Lack nothing. The fullness of your existence and our existence is the embodiment of the Ruach, of the Spirit of the Most High. So if I taste and take him in, then out me lacks nothing. Verse 11, verse 12. Come, children, listen to me, and I will teach you the fear of Yahweh. Which of you takes pleasure in living? Who wants a long life to see good things? If you do, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from deceiving talk. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and go after it. And I get one more here for you. In chapter 37, verse 23, Yahweh directs a person's steps. He delights in his way. There's a word there, right? What's the word? What's the word that's going? What's the word? What's the word? Way. Way. He delights in his way. The ways of the Most High are the embodiment of our application to Torah. We may stumble, but we won't fall headlong, for Yahweh holds him by the hand. One more I'm looking for here. Now, let's go to Psalms 40 and verse 7. This is the verse that's written over there in that they cut and paste in their document. And the applied meaning is not what they attribute it to be. Sacrifices and grain offerings you don't want. Burnt offerings and sin offerings you don't demand. Instead, you have given me open ears, semi-comma. Open ears. You've given me open ears. Why have you given me open ears? You've given me open ears so that I will be able to hearken to the voice of Yahweh. So then I said, this is David speaking. It's King saying. So then I said, here I am, I'm coming. In the scroll of the book, it is written about me. Oh my goodness. Oh, that is so misquoted and so misunderstood. Now, I want you to understand something. You've given me ears to hear. So then I said, King David, here I am, I'm coming. In the scroll of the book, it is written about me. What's written about you? What's written about you? There's something that's written about you. What's written about you? What's written about you? Oh, Torah is written about you. The Torah is written about you. The Torah in your life and adjusting and adapting to it is something that is personal to each and every one of you. When you absorb Torah into your person and into your being, the book then becomes, or the Torah, mitzvot, and commandments then are written about you because you have applied your life to carrying them out and walking in them. Watch the next words. Doing your will, my El, is my joy. Now, the next line substantiates what I just said. Your Torah is in my innermost being. What does that mean? That means that the Torah has become a part of who you are. Therefore, the book Torah is written about you, that you have taken in application, and it is a part of your innermost being. In order for it to be a part of your innermost being, it is something that you dwell on, meditate upon, seek, and want to know. I can tell you today, it's part of my innermost being. It's who I am. We had one of our listeners to the podcast write us a very encouraging comment this week and said to us, "You brothers are truly Torah." Amen. I said, Amen. Yes, we are. To the core. Don't get it twisted. To the core. We are Torah. Well, let's go. Now, let me go with one that lacking nothing. In the Psalms also, in these readings, he says to us, if your ways please me, what will I do? I will give you the desires of your heart. So lack nothing, and the desires of your heart are connected to the mitzvot. Now you say, well, I don't understand, because there's a whole lot of things I desire. However, watch this now. Your desires and my desires must be within the constraints of the will of the Most High. It's not the Most High's will that you should be hungry. It's not the Most High's will that you should be homeless. The king said, I once was young, but now I'm old, and I've never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. It's not the Most High's will that you shouldn't have a donkey and a mule and a whip. Get around. It's not his will. It's a desire. He may need you to be able to get around to do his bidding and do his business. It's not the Most High's desire that you be broke and poor. We poor because we didn't learn the principles that the Most High gave us for being stewards of what he's given us. Hello? Hello? So when he says you lack nothing, he's talking about operating within the parameters of his teaching. And if we abide by that, guess what you're going to have? A prosperous life. He even says, in the midst of famine, you'll have no lack. Do you all realize how close we are to a famine? Hello? Do you realize how close we are to a famine? All the water sources in the United States are drying up, which means that the rationing out of water for the growth of vegetation, which produces food, is becoming a problem. And the Most High said, even in the midst of famine, you, Hebrew Israel, will not have any lack. So these become very, very important. Let's go. In Vayikra chapter 21 and verse 7, he talks to us about the prohibition of the Kohanim to marry a prostitute. Now you say, what has that got to do with being in exile? Well, the problem is that the Christian church don't understand that their pastors and their teachers are Kohanim that are supposed to be teaching them Torah. And for us Hebrew people, me, myself, and the other young men that may rise up to want to be Kohanim teachers, he says, a Kohanim is not to marry a woman who is a prostitute, who has been profaned or who has been divorced because he is set apart for his Elohim. Rather, you are to set him apart as set apart because he offers the bread of your Elohim. Now, we just got through talking about taste and see. The word of the Most High is bread. It's lechem. He is to be set apart for you because Yahweh, who makes you set apart, is set apart. So the person that's going to stand in this position that I'm in has to be cautious about who he marries. Obligation for the Kohanim to marry a virgin. Why? Because he must marry a virgin from among his own people and not disqualify his descendants among his people, because I, Yahweh, who makes him set apart. A woman who has been pre-married to another individual has taken on ideas, thoughts, and ways of that individual. So now you join with that individual, we have conflicting thoughts, conflicting ideas. Yaakov, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they all married women who were not Hebrews, but they were virgins. So when they married them, they married into the Hebraic way. Guess what you haven't read? You haven't read one scripture text where any of those women were a hindrance to the men that they married. Isaac was blessed, and Jacob was blessed by all four of the women that he cohabited with and brought this wonderful nation into existence. When you marry people who are not, who have been predisposed to different thoughts and ideas, you have conflict. Now, this is interesting. If you are Catholic and you choose to marry a person who is not Catholic, guess what you can't do? You cannot get married under the flag of the Catholic Church. Why? Because they want everybody to be on the same page and in one accord. So I suppose they got that from the Most High. They got everything else from the Most High. Suppose they got that from the Most High too. Oh, here we go. Leviticus 22 and 32, the obligation to not profane Yahweh's name. Yahweh's name is set apart. And the problem that we're confronted with, as we've already deduced, is that the Father's name is not written in the Greek text. That is, the Septuagint or the Pentateuch, which has been authored by the scholars. They left out the name of the Most High when the Most High said, when Moshe asked him, "What's your name?" If you read it, that text from the Greek Bible, it's not there. That's the reason why they say Lord. So when you say Lord, the question becomes one, which Lord? For me, for them, all from everywhere in scriptural text through the whole entire work, everywhere the word Lord is, it's either conflicted with God or Jesus Christ. But he has a name. It's written in text. And he says, you are not to profane my holy name. Now watch this, class. Watch this, class. Come on back here. Come back here. You cannot profane that. It's not a name. Not only is it not a name, it's associated with that which is heathen. So you can't profane it. I grew up, and my dear wife, she used to hate it when I'd say this. And at first I was a little timid about it. You know, I said, well, God damn it. Oh, you're not supposed to. She said, I wish you wouldn't say that. I said, why? I said, it's not really swearing. I said, but that's not his name. So I've done anything. So now the question becomes one, how do we do this? How do we profane the Father's name? Anybody got a guess? Huh? By our actions and our behavior. When our actions and our behavior are outside the framework of Torah, when we're outside the framework of this and our actions do not reflect what the Most High has given us as a way of life, the Most High said to Israel, you have profaned my name amongst the nations because you're following an idolatrous way. I am to be regarded as set apart amongst people of Israel. Now, the Christian church doesn't understand the principle that when I stand up and I say to you, I greet you in the name which is above every name. I greet you in the name of Yahweh, the Elohim of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They get upset. You know why they get upset? Because the Father's name's not written in their book, and they've never been taught what it is. Obligation to keep the Sabbath. This is an easy one. We know that one. We've gone that one over and over and over and over and over again. So we know what that one is. That's a common one. Obligation to rest on the first day of Pesach. A lot of people in Christianity don't know what Pesach is. Passover, Pesach is Passover. It's not Easter. Christian church don't know what that is. They never heard of it. And the Most High has given us these designated days that we are supposed to honor. Now, I got to tell you something, okay? I'm going to tell you something. Do you remember your birthday? Do you remember when you got married? Huh? Do you remember that? Well, all of the Moedim of the Most High, we should remember when they arrive. And if we were in a congregation and you were off by yourself and you missed them, well, you say, well, if I missed them, I'm okay because it requires a congregation. I don't have a congregation to gather with. Oh, okay. The text says to remember. Whether you have a congregation to gather with or not, the text says remember. We go to Vayikra chapter 23 and open it up from the top and read down. The word means remember. When is? We ought to start remembering that. That's as important as your birthday. It's as important as your day you got married. I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to go there. Woo. Watch yourself, Robert. The obligation to eat matzah for 7 days and have a holy convocation and not do any ordinary work. What's this festival? Festival of the Feast of Matzah. We who are Hebraic know when it comes up, and we spend that week right after Pesach, the day after Pesach, eating matzah for 7 days. So you know what this one is. Obligation to bring an offering and refrain from ordinary work. Now, if we were in the land, bringing this offering would be what? What would it be? What would it be? We got to bring an offering made by fire. What would that be? A lamb? A goat? A bull? Huh? Huh? Pigeon? Yeah. A dove? Grain offerings? Made by fire. In this exile, we bring that which the Most High has blessed us with, which is money. Bring an offering. Bring that which the Most High has blessed you with. When we get in the land, y'all ain't never been a farmer. we might be making a trip to the market to buy one that's already been prepared for us to take to the temple and offer to the Most High. Don't know. Don't know. We don't know. There's things we don't know. But we know this is going to happen. Prohibition to eat bread until the 16th of Nissan. You're not to eat bread, dried grain or fresh grain, until the day you bring the offering for your Elohim. This is a permanent regulation throughout all your generations, no matter where you live. We know what to do with that. We don't eat anything that has what? Leaven in it. That's the Hebrew way. No cake. No cupcakes. No donuts. No cinnamon rolls. Anything that has leaven in it, we have a time frame. Now, I was thinking this morning, and I said, there are actually two. One's a religion, and we are a way of life that have rules that govern how we are supposed to function and act. What religion has rules? What religion has rules? Come on, think about it. What religion has rules? Huh? Islam. The Muslims have rules that they live by, and they're religious about it. They have Ramadan. Ramadan, there's certain things they don't eat, certain stuff they don't do, and they're religious about it. And I was thinking that Hebrew Israel needs to have that same kind of mindset. What the Most High has given us, we ought to be religious about it. The obligation to count the Omer, that means that on the 15th day of Nissan, the day after Passover, we begin the 50-day count down to the 7 full weeks, where you are to count 50 days, and then we present the grain offering before Yahweh. In this exile, we do this. We just don't have the grain offering to present. Obligation to bring bread of wheat from our homes on Shavuos. So Shavuos arrives. We've gone through that whole process of the 50 days, and we're able then to eat bread that has leaven in it and things of that nature. I know you know this. Those people out there don't know it. Vayikra 23 and 21, the obligation to rest and do no ordinary work on the festival of Shavuos. So it's a day that's set apart. It's a holy convocation. And guess what? Guess what? The Christian church knows about this day. They just don't call it Shavuot. They call it what? Pentecost. And the interesting thing about it is that they don't know the parameters that are associated with the festival of Shavuot. All they know was given. Now watch this. Listen to me. They celebrate Pentecost, which is the giving of the Torah to Israel, or the law to Israel. They celebrate it and then tell you that you don't have to do it. That's interesting. Except for the fact that they equate this day, which we call Shavuot, and they call Pentecost, they celebrate it in light of Acts. The day when the Holy Spirit fell upon those that were all assembled in the one room. That's how they celebrate it. But that's not what it's about. Obligation to rest on the day of the Feast of Trumpets. Now, we are in the month of Elul, which is the beginning of the high holy days. Right now, from now until I think it's the 24th of September, I think that's the day, when the Feast of Trumpets begins, we're in the process of inward examination. The Feast of Trumpets is the blast of the shofar. It is to awaken Hebrew Israel and allow them to understand something that's very important. I need you, Israel, to get right. Sound of the shofar. You've had the whole month of Elul. Okay? Feast of Trumpets is coming. After that, you got 5 days. Or 5 or 10 days. You got time before the Day of Atonement. Because when the Day of Atonement comes, I can hear my father sing a song. Heaven doors soon will be closed. The heaven doors soon will be closed. And the rest of the other song says, you better get to heaven in due time before the heaven doors close. Well, on the Day of Atonement is a day of judgment. So we have to go through the Feast of Trumpets, awaken, understand what's taking place, make sure that your life is in a place of rightness before the Most High before we enter into the Day of Atonement. Okay? Yes, sir. 10 days. Thank you, Brother B. I should remember that, but I don't. I know it happens. I know that there's a window, and I slide through that window and do what I'm supposed to do, and you all need to do the same thing, because the Day of Atonement will come, which is the next one. Prohibition to perform any ordinary work on the Feast of Trumpets. In other words, it's a Shabbat. It's what we call a Shabbating. It's more than one Shabbat. We have the Shabbat on the seventh day of the month, and then we have all these Shabbats or Sabbaths in between. This is one of them. And it's a day of complete rest. So on the day of the Feast of Trumpets, you should not be doing any ordinary work. You should be resting. One of the reasons why we need to know the days and times of these going into the year, so that you can request your vacation time. Take that day off and be in line with what the Most High is asking us to do. And I think that I have to do due diligence to allow you to know when those dates are so that you can prepare yourself, because they change every year. Obligation to bring an offering on the Feast of Trumpets. Once again, we bring an offering before the Most High. For us, it's money. In the exile, it will be an animal sacrifice that we will bring by fire. Obligation, Vayikra 23:27, obligation to fast and bring an offering made by fire on the Day of Atonement. Now. Why do we fast on the Day of Atonement? Why is it necessary to do that? Just because he asked you to? Okay, yes. But fasting serves a very interesting human principle in the body. It acts as a purifier, and it acts as a cleanser within your body. What's the Most High trying to tell us? That on the Day of Atonement, I don't want your dirty self coming before me unless you have gone through the aspect of purification. And part of that purification is called fasting. Now, let me explain. I realize that some of us that have gotten older have to take medication. And some of that medication we have to take with food. The interesting thing about the Day of Atonement fast is it is a total 24-hour fast. No bread, no water. Well, you say, if I don't drink some water, like me, you're going to be a little lightheaded. Where are we? Where are we? We're in exile. When we are in the land, the body is not going to be subjected to the normalities that are associated with where we are today. So here's what the Most High wants us to do. He wants us to remember this, and he wants us to make a good faith effort. You know what I'm saying? He's not asking you to die. Make a good faith effort. Now, it's hard to go on a 24-hour fast, just bam, do it. That's hard. That's hard. So if we know that this is coming up, guess what we should be doing in the interim? Listen. Right now, it's preseason for the NFL. The games are real, but they don't count. So it's leading up to that which is real. So when real comes, they'll be in shape to do what they're supposed to do. So what should we be doing? Knowing that this is coming. We should be starting to do things relative to fasting now. Build up. Go 4 hours. Go 5 hours. Go 6 hours. Go 7 hours. Put your body through the test to get yourself ready for this 24-hour Day of Atonement fast. Because when the day comes, you're going to go, Now watch this now. I'm going to tell you something about fasting. Fasting can be good. It can be bad. How can it be bad? Do you know how hungry people act? Huh? Do you know how hungry people act? And they get cranky. The Most High is not asking you to get cranky. He's asking you to do something because he wants to receive your personage in a right attitude towards him. So this is the 20th of August. You got a whole month to start practicing fasting and working your body conditioning up to where you can at least make it or give it a good faith attempt. On the Day of Atonement, it's the Sabbath. We don't do any kind of work, and we should be resting on that day. We'll gather for a convocation here at the building on that particular day. At the end of that day, at the end of the fast, we'll gather here and break our fast together. The obligation to rest, we've talked about that. That's what we do on the Day of Atonement. It's a Sabbath of complete rest. Deny yourself. That's the mitzvah. Obligation to rest on the first day of Sukkot and not do any ordinary work after the Day of Atonement. We come into this time frame that's called Feast of Tabernacles or Sukkot, where for 7 days, Hebrew Israel is supposed to live in sukkahs. Some of us do this, some of us don't. And the problem with don't is the fact that we are in this blacktop jungle, and unless you're going to go out to the wilderness, or unless you have a nice backyard where you can put up a tent and go out there and have dinner and commune, it makes it quite difficult to be able to do this in exile. Where you can, give it a good faith effort. The Most High knows that we're in this exile. That's the reason why he's given us grace. People think grace came with Jesus Christ. No. The Most High said, I'm kicking you out of the land, and I'm really angry with you, so you're going to be in exile. And in exile, I'm not diminishing your Torah responsibilities, but I'm going to give you grace because those foreign nations that you're going to are not going to allow you to do what I'm asking you to do. So I'm giving you grace. Just because he gives you grace, and this is an interesting text over there in Romans that Shaul quotes. Shall we continue to be Torahless because he's given us grace? No, we shouldn't be. We should make every effort to walk within the principles of the Most High. And once again, the obligation is to bring an offering for 7 days. Now, I want you to remember something about Hebrew Israel, okay, with this mitzvah. With this mitzvah, in Hebrew Israel, this was an annual pilgrimage where they would pilgrimage and go up to Jerusalem and camp around the house, the temple. So consequently, by doing so, they were able to bring their offerings to the Kohanim and the priests to offer on the altars every day. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what that was like? Can you imagine how many lambs and how many bulls were offered up during the Feast of Tabernacles? A whole lot. Don't think about that. Once again, it comes with the aspect of bringing an offering made. On the 8th day, you are to have a set-apart convocation and bring an offering made by fire. That's the conclusion of the Feast of Tabernacles. Obligation to dwell in a sukkah. We talked about that. Well, you have an opportunity to do that so that generation after generation you will know that I made the people of Israel live in sukkah. Now, let me share something else with you, okay? The difficulty that we have in fulfilling this mitzvah in exile is that the time of tabernacles is a time when it is what? It's cold outside. It's difficult. Here's the difference. In October, in the land of Africa, it is summer. And it is hot. So the difficulty of living in a sukkah outside in the continent of Africa, which is the home of Hebrew Israel, it wasn't a problem. For you and I, what you got to put out there? Got to put a heater under that tent, because it's cold. But if we were in the land, it wouldn't be cold. It'd be hot. You want to go to Africa in the fall. Don't go in the spring, go in the fall. And that's it. I wanted to share those with you. I know those are common to you, and you all know them. But to our audience out there, they may not know them. Once again, we have online our book, In Defense of the Messiah, why we talk about the people across the street and their God not being the Elohim of Israel. It's written in that book. You can tune into our podcast, download it on Podbean, look for Hebrews in Exile. Also on iTunes, our music is there, Hebrew Worship under the name of Kevin Holman. And I say to you, Shalom. Yibarakaka, Yahweh v'ishmeraka, Ya'er Yahweh panav aleka, Bekanuka, Yesai Yahweh panav aleka v'yasham laka shalom. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face to shine on you and show you his favor. May Yahweh lift up his face toward you and give you peace. Until we meet again, Shalom.